quarterback position always comes through for you in Cleveland. It always comes through, no matter what.
Never fails. I mean, hey guys, how are we doing? I mean, feels like everybody's gotten. We have plenty to talk about. I mean, there's no shortage of.
Can we get Kevin Stefanski to spill some tea too while we're at it?
I don't think Kevin's very active over there on X, unfortunately.
Actually, it'd be a shame. It'd be a shame if he didn't have a burner account.
Absolutely.
I don't
Coach,
want to
you
find
got
this
any
out.
burner
No.
accounts we need to know about?
Everything you get from me. It's all I'm doing all my own stuff and sending all my own stuff.
I like that. I like it. No burner. Nobody in this room needs a burner account.
No,
okay, we're good.
I have enough trouble managing my own account.
I was going to say, I can't. I'll mess that up for sure quickly.
And if you guys are missing it, obviously Baker Mayfield just about 15 minutes ago
launched a grenade.
Scorched earth.
Yeah, responding into DeOrlando Ledbetter, who covers the Falcons down in Atlanta, had tweeted out that Kevin Stefanski had a dumpster fire at quarterback in Cleveland. Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson failed and started the chain reaction to 11 others, which Baker responded with, "Failed is quite the reach, pal. Still waiting on a text or call from him after I got shipped off like a piece of garbage. Can't wait to see you twice a year, coach." Well, that makes this thing, and I mean, listen, they obviously not entirely Brown-centric. It relates to Kevin Stefanski, Baker Mayfield, obviously, but now those two playing away.
Do I just spill the tea right now?
You do whatever you want.
Right
I'm
now.
just here.
Yeah,
I'm just here to keep the.
Would you like to know why Baker Mayfield isn't a Cleveland Brown? Because he was a jerk to everybody in the building, and I witnessed it with my own 4 eyes. He told a VP to go bleep himself right in front of me.
That'll get you escorted out pretty quickly.
Right. Well, no. I mean, you say that in any type of a work environment to anybody, and you're fired. I mean, that's insubordinate right there.
Yeah.
That's insubordinate disrespect. You're going to be fired for something like that. And this is the stuff Baker was pulling behind the scenes. Now, if you're going to say that to a VP of the Cleveland Browns, how are you treating the equipment guy? How are you treating the the janitor, right? That's charged with cleaning up after you all the time, right?
And you're the quarterback too. You're
Absolutely.
making a great point too, because the quarterback, you got to bite your tongue.
You're the face of the organization. That's why he's not here. He was not a good dude. He was an immature dude when he was here. And oh, by the way, Baker, okay, yeah, the Browns were guilty of trying to court another quarterback here, but you asked for a trade request. It took him a little while to find somebody who actually wanted you, and that was the Carolina Panthers. But like, I defended Baker quite a bit. He lost me tonight. That was it. That was it for me. I can't defend the guy anymore.
This is the type of thing, though, that I just know when we go to watch NFC South football. And not discarding anything you said, Baker's going to go scorch earth on Kevin Stefanski in game. Like,
throwing a bunch of interceptions?
No, this will be the Baker. He'll throw in his first time against Kevin Stefanski, the 2 games they played. It'll be like 9 touchdowns to no picks. He'll throw for 900 yards in those 2 games. This is Baker. We lived through the Baker cycle. All he needs is a chip on his shoulder, and then the dude just goes ridiculous. And then I'm sure the next year he'll probably throw 3 picks to 1 touchdown, and he'll just keep going through the cycle. But make no mistake, the next Baker Mayfield outing against the Falcons, he's probably going to look incredible. It's just the way that Baker works.
I mean, he's just now giving me a reason to root for Kevin Stefanski in Atlanta now. Thanks, Baker. Appreciate you, Bake.
Well, I just, as a quarterback, you have to, we say that to, as a coach, I would say that to high school kids. Before you hit send, think about who's reading it. Would your mom, would your boss, would your kids, you have to think about that stuff. For me, once again, I was a big Baker fan. That's an inappropriate thing. It's inappropriate.
I've been told that recently. Think before you post.
Yeah, absolutely. All of us.
Check
right?
for spelling, check for pronunciation, or punctuation and all that stuff. And also make sure you don't make anyone too angry.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Baker did plenty of that, but that's nothing he's shy to. So this will be a fun little thing to, again, and this is the fun part, is former Cleveland Brown. We get to sit back and we just get to go.
We got former Brown on Brown, crime going on here.
And now we just get to sit back and kind of enjoy it as a far. You guys enjoy the NFC South. We're going to be over here, and what hopefully looks a lot better. We're just going to cross our fingers and hope for that one. Because obviously there is still a lot going down in the Browns coaching surge. Obviously, since last week, we've had the Harbaugh domino fall. Right, he's over to the Giants, and we could talk about the other 4 hirings that have been made. The beauty of us having a 2-hour show is that I can tell you those things and those not even be a part of anything we're really going to talk about much today, because still the Browns are going through troubles of their own.
Yeah.
Right now, as of today, about an hour or so ago, we got the news that Mike McDaniel has pulled his name from the Browns coaching search, and he was one of the final 6 that the Browns were planning to bring in for a second interview that was scheduled for tomorrow. there's a lot that goes into this. I want to get into whether or not this is like an indictment on the Browns, but Daryl, I'll turn to you first because the biggest implication here is that the Rooney Rule is something that has to be satisfied inside of a coaching search, which either comes from hiring a minority candidate, or if you're not hiring a minority candidate, you need to go through and at least satisfy going through 2 in-person interviews with those, one of which were Mike McDaniel. And right now you look around the remaining candidates you have, Nate Shieldhouse, who, by the way, can't interview until at the very least Monday, and that's if the Rams don't make the Super Bowl. He is the only minority candidate left out of the 5 that remain.
Correct. And
that creates some problems.
Not if they hire him.
Well, this is very true. If you go and hire Shieldhouse, you don't have an issue. But if not, there needs to be a 6th candidate added to the list, or at least that would be my understanding of it.
Well, unless there is a candidate that we don't know about, say maybe at the college level, that is a minority. But you're right. The Rooney Rule stipulates now it is a change that they made because, quite frankly, teams were making a mockery of it. Right? They would do what I would call a token interview, and then 5 minutes later, when they're done, then go hire the coach. See the Miami Dolphins, who the other day I believe they interviewed 2 candidates in one day, and then 2 hours later named Jeff Hafley their head coach.
Yeah.
But hey, they checked the boxes of the Rooney Rule, and it's an important rule. There's no question about that. But teams are going to find a way to make a mockery of it as well. And that's unfortunate. They've extended it to coordinator jobs. They've extended it to front office executive jobs. Like they have tried to they've tried to expand it in a way in which it's actually productive. It's a shame that you have to have the rule to begin with, but here we are. They have the rule. And so unless there is a candidate that we don't know about that the Browns have interviewed in person, then you would be correct. They would have to just interview and then hire Nate Shieldhouse to be in compliance. Otherwise, they're going to have to drag another name in here to interview, because right now this is the field of 5. Jim Schwartz is interviewed. Todd Monken on the interview schedule today. Grant Udinsky, Jesse Minter, going to be later this week. And then, of course, Shieldhouse will be next week. The earliest he could interview would be on Monday. And I would be shocked that right after the NFC Championship game, then he hops on a plane for Cleveland to come here for an in-person interview. I would think that would be a Tuesday or a Wednesday type of interview, but you never know.
I just want to clarify, too, that is only if they lose that game, correct? Can he interview if they're heading to the Super Bowl?
Because remember, there's a week between.
Okay.
There's a week between, so yes, they would be permitted to speak with him next week, regardless of outcome of the NFC Championship.
Because, there's a lot on the plate there. This is kind of the problem. Is like nobody's going to sit here and argue whether or not the Rooney Rule is well-intentioned, because I think flat out, we know why it's in place, and it's important to have something like that in place. But the reality of the situation that I feel like we're looking at right now is that you look at the Browns have narrowed down their candidates to who they feel is a good head coach, when in reality, now the 6th name that you drag in, it's going to be an interview to get an interview done. This is the problem that happens, and nobody's going to come out and say that, but everybody's going to look at it and think the exact same thing. Is if you drag an Antonio Pierce or an Anthony Weaver in here who you didn't think to interview in the first place, and you weren't giving a second interview in the first place, when you drag one of those guys back in, it's like you have to, but you're also then not giving these guys an actual legitimate opportunity. They get the interview experience, but I would be stunned if that guy ended up with the job, would be the point. So you're basically just bringing in a guy to interview a guy.
Yeah. So look, I would never accuse a team of doing, because that's just reckless. But let's be honest about it. It does happen in the National Football League.
Absolutely, it does.
It has happened in the National Football League, and I'm sure it will continue to happen in the NFL. So I'm not saying that is the case here, but based on the remaining 5 that they, 2 are down, 3 more to go. There's only one minority candidate left on that list. Had they been able to talk to Mike McDaniel, he would have been the second. Well, he would have been the first in the door, and then Shieldhouse next week would have fulfilled the rule whether they hired him or not. So, I would just keep an eye out for another head coaching candidate for the Cleveland Browns potentially popping up at some point this week, unless, again, their eye is on Nate Fieldhouse. And I don't know, maybe this tips their hand, because McDaniel obviously got some feedback somewhere, whether it was directly from the Browns themselves, whether it's from his representation. He's the one that withdrew. The Browns did not say to him, hey, let's not do this because you're out, you're out. No, this is his choice. So he must have gotten some feedback somewhere that he would not be a candidate. And I guess our dreams of having Mike McDaniel be the offensive coordinator here have also just been dashed.
It's such an interesting thing now, because you point out the fact that, like, hey, there might be a word that maybe he's not being considered highly for that job. Maybe he's not in the final running or top candidates that they have. You also go into the other side of that right now, which is he just interviewed for the Chargers offensive coordinator opening after Greg Roman got fired today. I think that we look at McDaniel, and he's gone through how many different interviews. I think another take to this is that he's gone through and interviewed so many different times that you eventually got to narrow down your own list.
And the Browns have just announced that the second interview with Todd Monken has been completed.
Okay, so that one's done too.
We are now 2 completed interviews in the round of second interviews. We're 2 in. First Jim Schwartz, now Todd Monken. So onward we go with contestant number 3.
Which I think it was announced today as well. I want to say it was Minter on Thursday, Yudinski on Friday, and then obviously the Shieldhouse in the waiting. Coach, what is your take on this? Like, you sit here, you see McDaniel kind of pull out. What is your initial reaction as to why something like that happens?
My initial thought, going on what Daryl said, I didn't think of it that way. That makes sense to me. But what I thought of is a guy who's asking for more control than the Browns are willing to give him. And when you talk about guys who have been established, and he's an established offensive mind, when you think about him and Shanahan and McVay, these guys are kind of where everybody's trying to reach out to their trees and get those guys with the motion and the condensed formations and all that kind of stuff. So for me, when he's coming in, it's did he want too much draft control? Did he want whatever roster configuration? All those things that go into being a head coach at any level, but especially the NFL level. That's not really what the Browns want to give. They don't want to give that type of power to someone. So when you think about Shieldhouse coming in, right? Now you're thinking, if Schwartz is your head coach, is Shieldhouse now the offensive coordinator? It kind of makes sense. Now you're keeping the defense, in theory, kind of, there's some structure to it, some stability there. I don't know. For me, when guys like Mike McDaniel, I always look at that as a kind of a warning sign, just because, for me, he walks in and goes, I want this, and they go, no. And he's like, I'll see you later then. And that's kind of what happens when you get established guys. They have demands, and they've kind of earned it. And that's kind of what happened. That's, for me, that has something to do with it as well.
There's a lot of different things that play into this. We're going to go over some of them. We're going to listen to Albert Breer gave his thoughts on why Mike McDaniel may have pulled out from this job. We'll react to that. Dane Brugler set to join us of The Athletic at 7:40 today. We'll get into some draft talk, where the Browns could be heading, what we see in this draft class right now. Obviously, we just watched Indiana win the national championship, going back to last night. So we'll have plenty of questions for Dane, but you guys can chime in here. 216-474-0092. We're going to get into so much more. Plus, Sean McDermott, also maybe a name the Browns can look at.